things need to like adapt and evolve in order to be able to survive. So adaptation, by definition, is any structure that helps an organism survive its environment, right? So seeds have a certain adaptation that allows them to survive in the environment. So if you take a look, this is an example of different types of adaptations. So all four of these things are birds, right? We have a hummingbird, we got a hawk, we got like the casual, like regular outside bird, we got cranes. But as you can see, they all have different types of beaks, right? They all had different things that they had to adapt to because they needed to survive, right? So the hummingbird has a long nose so that it can get the nectar from flowers. We have the hawk that has a sharp beak because it needs to be able to rip meat. You have those regular like city bird that has a small beak so it can like break up nuts, and you have the crane that has the longer beak so that way it can catch fish, right? So similar to birds and other animals and other things that have adaptations so they can survive, seeds also have adaptations as well, right? There's different things that they need so they can survive. And we're actually going to talk a little bit about what these different things are right now, okay? So we have the cotyledon, we have the embryo, and we have the seed coat, all right? So looking at these diagrams, you're looking to see like what they are. It looks very similar to a cell, right? Doesn't this remind us of cells? So if we remember the stuff that we remember from cells, go ahead and type in the chat, what do you think the function of these different parts of the seed are? What do you think the functions of these seeds are, right? So we have the seed coat that's on the outside. We have the cotyledon that's on the inside. That looks very similar to me, like the mitochondria. And then we also have the embryo that's right here, which kind of reminds me of the nucleus. Thank you, Shamel. I love Shamel's response. I love Nishita's response. Thank you, Kendall. So again, if we're reminding ourselves about what we had when we talked about cells, we talked about the cell wall, we talked about mitochondria. How is this very similar? What do you think these adaptations are for? Thank you, Logan. And again, I want to remind us, y'all wanted to see the picture that I was going to show y'all. Let's make sure that we are participating in the chat so that way I can, reward you guys. Ladies, you got a question? You got a question?
So, like, does the seed, is there such thing that makes the seed technically sprout out? Because the seed there's like something in the seed that starts the growing cycle. What creates the seed to break, which creates?
Great question. That is exactly what we're about to answer right now. Okay. So actually, the seed coat is the tough outside of the seed that protects the seed until the seed is placed in a suitable living environment and begins to germinate. All right, so we're going to go over germination in a second, but in short, germination is when seeds begin to grow. So Malaysia asks, like, what happens, and like, how does the seed start? Where does it begin? It starts with germination, right? But the seed coat protects it until it's in a good enough environment for it to begin to germinate. The next thing that we have is the cotyledon or cotyledon. I'm sorry, I cannot even say that, but use Google, it'll say it for you. But we do have the cotyledon, which supplies food to the plant as it starts to grow. So very similar to like the mitochondria inside of cells, this actually provides food for the seed until it can begin the process of photosynthesis, all right? So it's the plant's only source of food until photosynthesis begins. The seed cannot survive unless it has this inside it as well, all right? And then the last thing we have is you have the embryo, which is the new plant, right? And that really is not as important as learning about what I'm talking about here. We're talking about the seed coat, which basically protects the seed until it's allowed to germinate, right? So again, the embryo or the new plant that's inside is protected until or stays dormant until it's placed into a suitable living environment and it begins to germinate. And germination only begins when water is added. All right. So once it's in a suitable environment where it can get water, that is when. Okay, Melissa. Thank you. Cotyledon. Thank you so much. I appreciate that spelling out for me. Thank you. That's why it's a science, not English. All right. So once the seed is placed in a suitable living environment, that's when germination can begin. All right. So take some time, make sure that you're putting that under your vocab. And once you have put it under your vocab, we're going to go to what is called the process of germination. All right. So how about I know I'm tired of reading, and I see a lot of us who are not on camera. So let me check and see who is paying attention. Who is paying attention right now? How about Derek? Yeah, I ain't hear from Derek. Derek, can you read for us what germination is?
Germination is the process of the seed coming out of dormancy.
Thank you so much, right? So we're the process of, like we were talking about, when the seed, like Liz was asking before, how does the seed start? Is when germination begins, right? So once water gets into the seed, and it's in a suitable living environment, that is when it begins to remove the seed from dormancy. It become active, and it starts turning into the living being that it is, and that's how we start our plants, right? So we're going to explore the structural adaptations of seeds so we can understand how seeds survive dormancy and they germinate, all right? But how do these different environments facilitate germination, all right? So we're going to take or affect germination. So we're going to actually take a look at some different ways or different things that affect germination, how they germinate, okay? So as we know, there's two different types of water on our plant. We have salt water, and we have fresh water. What might happen to plants germinating that are growing in water that is salty? Tell me what you think would happen if you were growing water with salt water or growing plants with salt water. What do you think would happen? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Again, I know you guys want a good laugh at the end of the day. I'm gonna need some more participation in order for us to get that laugh, okay? So just think about it. How do humans react in salt water, right? How do we react in salt water versus fresh water? Thank you, Nashida. Thank you, Trayshawn. Thank you, Malaysia. So, as we're thinking about what salt will do to it, I want us to go into what our investigation is going to be for today. And it's not going to be very long. We only got a few more minutes left. But we are going to take a look at salinity. Can I have... Yeah, Logan, read for me what salinity is.
Different concentration levels of salt.
Absolutely. So there's salinity is the levels of salt or concentration of salt that is in something. Or as we're talking about today, we're talking about water. So today what we'll explore is how changing salinity levels will affect plants from growing, or how they will affect the plants from growing, right? So we will also explore some plants that are considered to be salt tolerant. So salt tolerant, all that means is that plants grow in salty environments, right? So who is the salty Mr. Isaac's plant? That's all we're going to figure out, okay? So, with that being said, we're actually going to take a look at a few plants that I grew. So I grew some plants, took some pictures, and I used fresh water in this first picture. Then here I used 30 milligrams of salt, added it to the same amount of water. Then I added 60 milligrams of salt to the second amount of water, or the third amount of water. Fourth, I added 90 milligrams. The last one, I added 120 milligrams. So tell me what you think what happens to these plants as they get saltier. The more salt that I add to the water, what happens to the plants, right? That's a great observation, Nishida. Great observation. So again, I want to know, what are you guys thinking, right? What happens as yep. Thank you, O'Malley. Thank you, Ariana. Thank you, Miles. Thank you. So, Nishida, I love your response. Can you go ahead and share that for us to the rest of the class?
Salt stunts their growth.
Exactly, right? So it appears that the salt may be stunting the growth of the plants, right? We're not exactly sure why. We're going to do a little bit more exploring on that as we go deeper into this class, or not this class, and deeper into this unit. But as you can see, some observations that a lot of us are making is that the more salt that was added to the water, the less likely the plant was to grow, or it grew at a slower rate. All right. So for our exit ticket, I want you to be able to tell me, why do you think that some plants are more salt tolerant than others, right? So just tell me, you can go ahead and take a guess. You can go ahead and try and go ahead. But tell me, why do you think some plants are more salt tolerant than others? Type me. Can you mute yourself, please? Oh, like Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory.